All rights reserved, all rights reserved. I thought I was live all this time, but it's all good. I was just a talking and a reading. Well, let's get into it. Good morning. This is about Lake Mead and about Usher's stepson. That sad connection. Let's get into it. So this is Lake Mead. No, it's not. Lake Lanier. This is Lake Lanier. Lanier is a lake that a lot of people in Atlanta like to go swim. People from in the South, people just generally like to go to Lake Mead. Gosh, I keep saying Lake Mead, Lake Lanier, because it has a historical. It's just a water. It's a lake that's close to where people can swim, and people go there. And what trips me out is people know this story. People know about Lake Lanier in the South. They don't care. They must don't believe the folklore, the ones that keep swimming in it. Check this out. A Georgia lake's dark and deadly history has some people seeing ghosts. Now, I thought I could tell this story on Halloween. This is one of three stories that got me fired from my job. So I'm gonna tell you the history of this lake. I'm gonna tell the story of each of the stories that got me fired one by one. So this one. A Georgia lake's dark and deadly history has some people seeing ghosts. Ooh, check this out. Legend has it the ghost of a long dead woman roams this lake in a flowing blue dress. This is according to CNN.com. These and other spooky tales have haunted Lake Lanier in the foothills of the northern Georgia mountains for decades. To many Georgians, the large serpentine lake northeast of Atlanta, it's only 45 minutes from Atlanta, is a recreational hotspot, popular for boating and water sports. But supernatural lore and urban legends about the lake have found a receptive audience on social media where they found legions of believers. The lake was created in the 1950s by flooding valley communities that contained a cemetery, fueling beliefs that it's cursed. Historians say some unmarked graves and other structures were swallowed up by its waters. More than 200 people have died in swimming and boating accidents on the lake since 1994, adding to its dark history. And the Netflix drama Ozark, which has its own high body count, films scenes at the lake. Woo! The stories about mysterious underwater sightings are eerie, especially at Halloween. But the true backstory of Lake Lanier, built over an underwater ghost town, is just as interesting. It's not a ghost town. They ran them people out of the town. It was a black people town. It was 1,000 plus black people in the town, and they were thriving. They had like probably the best crops. No, not probably. This is what I read. They had the best crops in the state for beans or whatever. And the people, the white folks around surrounding the town were jealous of that. So they was looking for a reason to get rid of the town, and they did. Look at this. The lake was mired in controversy from the start. 793 people have drowned in this lake. About 12 people drowned last year. I don't know why people keep going in this lake. Before the land was buried in water, it was lush and fertile with rabbits and squirrels scampering around. Communities thrived with fancy names like Castleberry Bottom. Then came the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which wanted to create a lake to provide Atlanta and surrounding counties with power and water. The government offered locals money for their farm. They didn't give no money to no black people. Most of it has been in families for generations, making it almost impossible to put a price tag on it. They ran these people off, killed the people, and then stole the land. Isn't that a very familiar story, y'all? Wow. Wow. Well, let me show you this really sad story. This is a sad story about, uh, well, you know what? Before we go into the sad story, let me show you what Amber Ruffin had to say about Lake Lanier. It was really, she's where I got a lot of the resource from. I never even heard of black towns being drowned out, but over 100 of them have. And they have not paid none of the families, none of the descendants of people who were ran off the land. And they ran. Let me just let this tell the story. This is Amber Ruffin's show. I'm gonna try to find her because she tells the story in such a amazing way, and she does it succinctly. And then we're gonna get into the Usher story. These are trigger warnings. I'm gonna let you know that this is sad, and you guys need to um, be aware. This is gonna be a sad story, but it's very interesting too. So I want y'all to check it out. All right, here we go. Here we go. All rights reserved. All rights reserved. This is for educational purposes and informational purposes only, based off the Copyright Act of 1976, Section 107. This is, I'm teaching with this, so please pay attention.
Familiar with the story of the Tulsa Race Massacre, where a white mob burned a vibrant Black community to the ground, which is crazy. Even crazier, dozens of other Black towns have been erased off the American map, not by burning them down, but by hiding them underwater. Don't know what I mean? Well, let's find out in a segment called How Did We Get Here? This is Lake Lanier. It's a lake in Forsyth County, Georgia, where people go swimming and boating and fishing and do a bunch of other lakey things. But before it was Lake Lanier, it was a town called Oscarville, Georgia. Now, Oscarville was a thriving, predominantly Black community with a church, a school, and dozens of homes until the year 1912, when a very bad thing happened. Oh, two very bad things. In 1912, two Black teenagers were accused of rape. They were tried, convicted, and sentenced to death in a single day. And after they were executed, a mob of white men terrorized, drove out, or killed all the Black people in the surrounding area. And they did that until the entire Black community of Oscarville disappeared. The county went from having over 1,000 Black residents in 1912 to zero in 1920. That story is so sad, it makes this story look like a comedy. After the Black community had been run off, the white people of Forsyth County said, you know what we could use? A big old lake. So they made one, right where the town of Oscarville had just been. They flooded the area and literally covered up the entire town with water. This is what it looks like right now. But the town is still under there. The homes and churches and schools, they're still down there. And now people go boating on top of them. Compared to that, this is truly a rom-com. Now, you might be thinking, what a weird, isolated incident. But just like the rat who ate the pizza in the subway, this story is both crazy and common. Ever heard of Collegia, Alabama? It was once a thriving Black community with a Black college, the first Black railroad, and literally hundreds of family homes. Today, it's Lake Martin. At least they had the decency to name it after a Black person. And if you think this kind of thing only happened in the South, let me introduce you to a place called Central Park. It's named after that coffee shop on Friends. Central Park used to have a Black community in it called York Hill. But the city of New York destroyed York Hill so that they could build the Central Park Reservoir. Because if there's one thing New York needs, it's another place for ducks to hang out. But if you come here, don't try and feed those ducks. They are very aggressive. Mess around and lose a finger. Now, when the residents of York Hill were kicked out of their homes, they fled to another Black community nearby called Seneca Village. And then a few years later, New York destroyed Seneca Village too, so that they could build Central Park on top of it. The craziest part of this story is that I work a few blocks away from a place where the government disappeared two Black communities. And until recently, I didn't know about any of it. You know why? Because it worked. They tried to erase Black communities and they came way too close. But now there are people doing the research. So we are finally learning about places like Henry and McKee Islands, which is now located under Lake Guntersville in Alabama, and Vanport, Oregon, which is now located under Delta Park. And all of these towns, which are currently literally underwater. Hey, wait, hold on. What was that last one?
Look at that.
Old Neversink. That's a real place. Well, if we've learned one thing today, it's never assume something is unsinkable. There are over 100 drowned American towns, and many were destroyed in the name of something called development-induced displacement.
Hold up. That's not the whole story. They broke those towns down because they was hating and jealous about black people moving ahead without needing white people. And that's just a fact. Then they erased it out of the history books. To this day, they don't teach this kind of history. And when I taught this kind of history, they fired my black ass. So they don't want us to know our history or our traumas, our oppressions, or on the real levels. All they want you to know about is Rosa Parks from the 1950s on down, Martin Luther King, and that's it. Malcolm X, if you're lucky. Most of these kids don't even know who Malcolm X is. They definitely don't know that we had our own black towns. But look at this: development induced displacement. So after they ran those black people out of the towns and killed a lot of them, okay, um, white folks made money off the land. Like when they made these lakes, these man-made lakes, they made a lot of, they're making millions of dollars off of that land. None of the black people that they ran off made no money off of them. And that's what she's talking about right here.
That's when people have to leave their homes so the government can develop things like dams or parks or lakes. This happens to both white and black people, but historically, when it happens, black people and other people of color are undercompensated for their property or not compensated at all. The theory is that the short term bad effects are worth the long term benefits for the community. But it's not fair if the long term gain is mostly for white people. Now, luckily, there's a solution. It's a very complicated system. It involves a series of, who am I kidding? Cut some dang checks. That's it. If you're going to kick black people out of their homes, make sure they have the money to stay on their feet. Cut a dang check. And yes, you can pay their descendants too, because generational wealth is one of the many things that is destroyed when you put black communities underwater. So,
yeah, and they ain't paid none of these people from Oscarville, Georgia. They rather hide the truth. That's why they're trying to get rid of black history and call us black instead of calling us indigenous or Indians or Seminoles or Blackfoot or whatever our original people names was. We didn't. I learned that we most black people in so-called black people in America. We really need to change that name. In America, were not brought here on slave ships, y'all. I learned that only 4% of the, if this is even true, the enslaved ships came to the North United States. Most of it, that's 96%, most of the boats, allegedly, if they even came from Africa, went to Brazil and went to the Caribbean islands. They went to where Nicki Minaj and Rihanna and LL Cool J is from. They came from Trinidad. They went to the Trinidad, the Bahamas, all the islands, all those people that these Negroes jock, like the Dominican hoes and all that. Yeah, they're all mixed because they was the ones on the plantations. And they split that piece of land with Haiti. Haiti didn't go under all that because they went to war with France and they stopped messing with them black people on that piece of the island. But Cuba, everywhere else, all these black, so-called black people were the ones on the sugar plantations. Black people in America was already free, fighting to keep our land, and they stole it, and they're still stealing it, and they renamed us. But anyways, I digress. Let's keep going.
cut a dang check. These drowned towns are part of the Black American history they don't want to teach you. It's ugly and it's gross, and we don't even know all of it. And the more we find out, the harder it is to love this place that would do those things to so many people. And if you're feeling this way, which I often do, you can try loving what this country could become instead. Our history may be full of pain, but our future has limitless possibilities. So look to the future while simultaneously being suspicious of every lake you see. This has been How Did We Get Here?
So I appreciate Amber Ruffin for that. Let me tell you also, the fact that they have not paid none of the descendants from Lake Lanier is tragic. And none of us should be playing around going to this stupid ass lake. And I know Usher's ex-wife, Tamika Foster, she is working hard to try to get this lake drowned, but ain't nobody gonna, I mean, not drowned, drained. They make too much money off that lake. They ain't about to get it. But here's the story. Here's this very sad case of Usher's stepson.
Is a Grammy Award winning.
All rights reserved. This is a trigger warning for some of y'all. If this is going to trigger you, click off now. I don't want anybody to be too sad this morning. But this is what happened. This is a true story. This happened.
Diamond selling R&B artist who dominated his era of music in the 90s, the 2000s, in the 2010s. But while his music career would make records and break records, his personal love life struggles were far from ideal. In 2008, he married his stylist, Tamika Foster, in a union that was subject to scrutiny from the general public and from Usher's own family members. The marriage itself was extremely rocky and ended in infidelity. It only lasted 2 years and would bring about two children, but it would also bring about a messy divorce and legal custody battles for years to come. And by 2012, as those custody battles raged on, their family would face a tragedy when Tamika's older son, Kyle, from a previous marriage, would lose his life in a tragic accident on Lake Lanier, which is Georgia's largest lake. And in today's episode of the Unfortunate Demise series, we will detail the life of Kyle Glover, his time with Usher, the events of the accident, the aftermath, and his legacy.
So sad.
Born on March 29th, 2001, in Atlanta, Georgia, to parents Tamika and Atlanta TV executive Ryan Glover, Kyle had an eye for creativity early on, as he loved to sing and dance.
Cash you now. The town too small for me to stay. Time is now. Heading out.
Wow.
By the time he was 6 years old, his parents had divorced and his mother married the legendary R&B superstar Usher, who Kyle and his older brothers had looked up to as fans, and who they now called stepdad. And on Kyle's 7th birthday, their family would attend the Kids' Choice Awards, putting him in the spotlight.
Having a good time. We're celebrating for two reasons. One, because we're happy to be here at the Kids' Choice Awards, but also it is my stepson's.
Oh, cool.
birthday.
Awesome.
Kyle.
How old are you? 7. Oh, that's so cool. Nice to meet you.
You know, we cooked together in the house. We laughed, we played, we sang. He loved to sing. He loved to dance. He loved to, to tell jokes.
As Kyle got older, he would showcase some of his talents and personality on his YouTube channel called The Kyle Show. But Kyle was also book smart and excelled at learning, winning medals in academics. He had aspirations to become an engineer, programmer, broker, actor, etc., a jack of many trades. But amidst the public custody disputes between his mother, his stepdad, and his younger brothers, he would spend the summer of 2012 with his father and stepmother. The family, along with several friends, would head out to Lake Lanier for a family day on the water. But this particular lake has been plagued with a dark and sordid past, marked by multiple tragic incidents that have resulted in the loss of innocent lives, making it Georgia's deadliest lake. And beneath the lake's waters sits a former old town called Oscarville, which in the early 1900s had been heavily populated with successful black farmers, carpenters, and blacksmiths. But after the mysterious, brutal murder of May Crow in 1912, 3 young black men would be wrongfully executed for her death, and over time, over 1,000 black residents would be violently forced out of the entire county through rioting, slayings, and the burning of homes and establishments in an attempt to racially cleanse the area and make Forsyth County a white man's county. And in the 1950s, the Buford Dam was built to prevent flooding. The waters from the Chattahoochee River and the Chestatee River would then fill in and form Lake Lanier, named after Confederate soldier Sidney Lanier. And the lake sits right over the top of Oscarville, as the city of Atlanta found it too expensive to demolish the infrastructure. To this day, rooftops, home foundations, cemeteries, and the Gainesville Speedway remain virtually intact.
Let me emphasize that again. They literally ran the people out of the town, kept in the people that they killed in their homes. So when they put this stupid ass water over the neighborhood, it was not just a black, it was a town. They left the bodies in the fucking houses. They left the houses. They left the hospital. They left the church. They left everything standing, y'all. It's so disrespectful. And it's still under the lake. So people say when they swim in this lake, they feel a pulling. They feel a pulling. Okay, how do you explain that?
Underneath the lake, these structures make the lake more dangerous for recreational activities and make it difficult for emergency services to recover bodies. Over the years, the lake has claimed the lives of over 700 people. Still, it's a very popular tourist destination with millions of visitors annually. And on July 6th, 2012, Kyle's dad Ryan and stepmom Marcia were in their speedboat, which was towing Kyle and a female friend on an inner tube. But a family acquaintance named Jeff Hubbard had been driving his jet ski in a reckless manner around this time. Marcia said he was just zooming back and forth, yelling with no hands, standing on a jet ski, just really crazy and erratic. She said her and Ryan then saw Jeff racing directly toward their boat, and before they knew it, there was a big cloud of water. His jet ski had struck the inner tube at full speed, knocking Kyle unconscious and leaving his friend with broken bones. Both children would be airlifted to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, and while the friend eventually made a recovery, Kyle, who had taken the brunt of the impact to the head, would never regain consciousness as his injuries were too severe. Days later, he would be declared brain dead.
I happened to be in Los Angeles, California when I received a call from Tamika. She said, I need to get back. Something happened with Kyle up on Lake Lanier. And I didn't know how real it was. So I reached out to Ryan, of course, respectfully, to get an understanding. And of course, he told me that, there had been an accident. And I said, well, I can fly Tamika back. Would you like me to do that? He said, yes, get her back here as soon as possible. I got her back on the phone, got her a plane, got her here. In my visitation of Kyle at the hospital, that
you went to see him?
I went to see him, yes.
For the next 2 weeks, Kyle would be on life support as his family kept hope alive. They released a statement saying, we know God's in control, and we are leaning on our faith in him and his word at this most difficult time. We firmly believe in the power of prayer and ask that you all continue to pray and lift Kyle up, as that's the best way we can all support him now. But on July 21st, after being taken off of life support, he would pass away from heart failure. Tributes would pour in online as people who knew the family were devastated. One tribute in particular coming from Justin Bieber, who had stayed with Kyle's family just before his big break.
What's up, guys? I'm about to do something crazy y'all never seen before. And the most amazing photographer right here. Right here. Right. Ready?
The funeral for Kyle would be held at the Wyuka Road Baptist Church on July 27th in Atlanta, and it was a beautiful service which was attended by hundreds of mourners, including Phaedra Parks and Jamie Foster Brown. But all the media could focus on was whether or not Usher himself attended the service.
Were you at the funeral?
It hurts me to hear the fact that people speculated and said that I wasn't at the funeral, because I absolutely was at the funeral. I was at the burial as well.
Unfortunately, with the very public, very messy custody battle, the question of Usher's attendance would be a reoccurring theme for all future events that Tamika would put together in Kyle's honor. When she hosted an annual 5K run to raise money for a foundation in Kyle's name, people asked, is Usher going to be there? I'll go if he goes. Still, Tamika became steadfast in honoring her son and making sure changes were put in place so that other families didn't have to endure the same pain. In March of 2013, on what would have been Kyle's 12th birthday, she launched the nonprofit organization, Kyle's World Foundation, with the mission of gifting children with endless possibilities of creative endeavors through applied fine arts, and they started hosting an annual performing arts day camp called Camp Kyle's World in Atlanta. That same month, the Georgia State Senate passed the Kyle Glover Boat Education Law, which requires that anyone born on or after January 1st, 1998, who operates any motorized vessel on Georgia waters must complete a boating safety education course and carry a Georgia Boater Education card, which at the time seemed like a major step in the right direction. But Tamika would later claim in an Instagram Live that the Kyle Glover Boat Law is not actually being enforced. It just merely exists. Also around this time, Jeff Hubbard was arrested and then indicted by a grand jury. His charges included homicide.
See, Tamiko had a noble thing. She was being honorable. She was trying to get something done. She did get a law passed where if you're under a certain age, you have to get swim lessons or you have to prove that you can swim and things like that. And she also tried to get this lake drained, but they ain't gonna drain that lake. They making way too much money. Now, as for this dude who crashed into this little boy, some people say it was on purpose. Allegedly. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's what they were saying at the time. Some people even back then thought Puffy had something to do with that because of some money that was owed, allegedly, or contract that Usher was trying to get out of, allegedly. That's what they saying. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. Because another son is going to end up drowning too. Check this out.
Homicide by vessel, serious injury by vessel, reckless operation of a vessel, unlawful operation of a PWC, and a boat traffic violation, but he pled not guilty to all charges. At trial, his defense lawyer stated that he tried to avoid hitting the boat and hitting the children, but what ended up happening was just a tragic accident. Tamika stated that even though she knows his actions weren't intentional, that he hadn't expressed any remorse either. She said he never came to me, Kyle's mother, and said, "I'm sorry." If you take someone's life, you apologize, especially to their mother. I'm not saying that the court should throw him in jail and throw away the key, but I think everything we do in life, there has to be some consequence for your actions. You can't just go on.
She was being very nice because this dude literally ran into their boat. Like he ran into their, like the ex-husband and his wife, they were on the boat and they said they saw this dude looking like he was directly coming at them, and they were like, hey, stop coming toward us. This is their friend, so-called, by the way. This was somebody they knew. This is who they rolled up there with, and he was drunk or something. But some people said it was not an accident.
And live your life as if you haven't ruined someone else's. Kyle was very, very talented, and his legacy I will fight to keep alive, but I don't have my son. When he took the stand, he tearfully pleaded for mercy and forgiveness, but only went so far as to say, "I apologize for my involvement in the incident." And the judge told him, "I'm disappointed that you have not accepted more responsibility for what occurred." Following,
did you hear that? He said, "I'm sorry for my involvement in the accident." He didn't say, "I'm sorry for what I did," as if, he worked alone. No, he said it as if he was working in cahoots or in conjunction with people. "I'm sorry for my part." My part? What?
Following an 8-day trial and 90 minutes of deliberation, the jury found Jeffrey Hubbard guilty on all charges. And while the sentencing carried a maximum 20 years, he would be sentenced to 4 years behind bars and 15 years probation for operating the jet ski in what the judge described as a foolish manner.
This dude literally only got 4 years. 4 for killing this child and injuring that other child. He broke that other child had broken nose and broken bones and all kinds of stuff, and he only got 4 years.
But Jeff's father stated that he did want to express an apology earlier on, but was advised against doing so by his counsel.
He's been remorse from day one. It's been a nightmare to him for the last 2 years. And it'll probably be something that's going to be indelibly etched in his mind for the rest of his life.
I'm just baffled. I'm waiting for God to give me the closure so I can just maybe understand, what the message is.
Even though it was an accident and Jeff was remorseful, it was imperative that some justice be served. It was only right. But long before the case had even gone to trial, Tamika claimed that Usher had been using Kyle's death as a sham to continually delay the custody case after he requested a postponement for proper time to grieve. But in the end, Usher would be awarded primary custody of his 2 boys. This, of course, put a bigger strain on their already tumultuous co-parent relationship. But things would go from bad to worse when on August 5th, 2013, their 5-year-old son, Usher V, was swimming in a pool at his dad's home when he became stuck in a drain and was under the water for nearly 3 minutes and would be hospitalized in the ICU. Thankfully, he would survive the incident. But for Tamika, this was all too similar too soon. And the very next day, she filed a request for an emergency custody hearing in Superior Court, seeking temporary primary custody, citing that her son's near-death accident was evidence of a lack of supervision with the children.
Do y'all remember this? I remember this. Do y'all remember that? Wasn't that? It was 2013, y'all. It wasn't that long ago. Okay. And do y'all remember when the first baby drowned? Not drowned. He got smashed and hit in the fucking lake. Everybody was saying it was suspicious. You know what I mean? Because the boy was in the pool, stuck in the pool for 3 minutes. Where was Usher, dude? Where you don't leave children near no pool. No time, period.
I don't know if there's a way for a blood pressure to peak higher so quick. I was mad because I was like, how did this happen? Who was watching him?
That's yet baby number 2 in ICU within a year, y'all. Whew.
Why was my son underwater for, nearly 3 minutes? It was like I relived it. Like my brain just went into all those modes thinking. And I even said on the phone, I said, I've had this call before.
Did you blame Usher for that?
I didn't blame him for it. I just was angry that it happened on his watch. Because while accidents happen, Never have my children been injured on my watch.
She stayed at the ICU every night with her son, but the judge dismissed her case, and when her son was released, it was back into the care of his father, and Usher retained primary custody of their two sons. But Tamika's concern, having had two sons be put in harm's way when under the supervision of each of their fathers, was understandably worrisome, and seeing her frustration prompted Usher to offer her a consoling hug in the courtroom. Because at the end of the day, what's best for the kids is all either party really wants. Throughout the years, they would both post many online tributes to Kyle, and Usher has expressed many times that Kyle's death really shook the core of many of his beliefs. In his song Stronger, released on his 2016 album Hard to Love, he sang, "Been through hell, now I'm hell-proof, pouring cups of whiskey to get through it. Oh, sweet child of mine, gone way too soon. Lost myself and lost my faith too. Though you're gone, you still live in my mind. The only thing we ran out of is time. Since you left, I ain't been quite the same. I wonder if you miss me. Do I make you proud? Knowing you're watching me, I feel your spirit. I keep you right by my side." Usher would echo these words the following year in an Instagram tribute on what would have been Kyle's 16th birthday. And Tamika has posted numerous tributes to Kyle over the years and has encouraged followers to be on the lookout for many upcoming projects in his name. In 2019, she released the concept for a 3D animated series entitled The Odd Life of Kyle Lyle, who is a quirky 11-year-old boy experiencing the classic middle child syndrome while also managing having superpowers in his day-to-day life, saving the world while keeping his powers a secret. The main character is voiced by Kyle's younger brother, Naveed, and both of his younger brothers will promote the series at the 2019 Kids' Choice Awards as Tamika began shopping around the idea to different producers. Also, the Kyle World Foundation started hosting an annual football camp in Ghana, taking Kyle's legacy overseas. And it was a great outlet for the youth out there to express their talents and abilities. And it's good seeing the youth tap into their creativity the same way Kyle did. Now, Tamika has often referred to Kyle as her favorite human being and her soulmate. She said that he was so spiritually synchronized with her that it was always eerie. And in early 2023, she collected more than 15,000 signatures in an online petition to drain, clean, and restore Lake Lanier to ensure the well-being of all individuals engaging in personal watercraft and recreational activities. She also saw this as an opportunity to honor the memory of those who have lost their lives in the lake, as well as the memories of those in the grave underneath the lake. We shall see what, if anything, comes from her efforts. It's been 11 years since Kyle's tragic death, and if he were alive today, he'd be 22 years old, and the possibilities of what all he would have accomplished is infinite. But rest in peace, Kyle Glover. In your short time on this earth, you've inspired so many, and your family is going to continue to keep your legacy alive. This is Justified by Jury.
Woo! Damn, man, that was heavy. That was some heavy stuff to mess around with this morning. I appreciate all of y'all out there. Please make sure you click like. Good morning. Greetings, OG Patrice. I'm doing these morning ones for y'all, for my work friends, my people who's at work, who be bored, looking for something to watch or do. So I'm going to do some of these. Check this out. This last bit is about the relatives of the Oscarville people. Check this out. Check this out. Here we go.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this on social media for the last few years. And if you haven't heard of it, it's probably because it no longer exists. It's buried under Lake Lanier. 11 Alive's Latasha Gibbons has more.
When we started working on this story, we set out to track down descendants of Oscarville. Weeks later, we found a family who could trace back their roots 4 generations. They shared with us stories that were handed down about what the all-Black town was like, including the night that led to its destruction. It was set on fire by night riders after they say a white woman was raped. Then later,
you know that's the game they play.
We now know as Lake Lanier.
They always saying that to make reason for every single town they fucked up.
May Crow is buried here at this Gainesville cemetery.
They claim that
a trail of destruction following her.
They claim that every single Black town that was destroyed, they always say it was because some Black man couldn't keep his dick in his pants and was going around R-wording white girls, which is why historically me as a Black woman, I just don't understand why there isn't more Black woman, Black man loyalty, because of the historical aspect of the fact that they've ruined most of our history with saying that Black men been poking up into white girls. Now, sometimes it was true. Sometimes these brothers was with these white girls, but most of the time they were not. They were just accused of it. Now, in the case of Oscarville, and I might show you another video on this, it goes more into details about what exactly happened. One white girl, she was 15 and she was with a black boy who was 15 or 16, and they actually was going together, and she was too scared to tell her daddy, so he beat her up, and then he basically killed the family of the black boy. Then this 2 days later or a day later, this white girl ends up found dead, and they basically used that as an excuse to destroy the entire black town. That's the same game they used in Tulsa. That's the same game they used in Florida. That's the same game they used all over the place. That's why just on GP, brothers should just show more race loyalty. That's all I'm saying, I guess.
Her death stretches into the land surrounding Forsyth County, buried beneath these waves of Lake Lanier, where in 1912, nearly every Black resident was forced out. That includes people living in an old Black town called Oscarville. The community was formed in the late 1800s during the Reconstruction era.
There was a very strong community feeling among the Blacks. About 300 kids, children, that went to some of the schools that were the Black schools, and it was closely connected to the churches.
Georgia history teacher Lisa Crosby says Oscarville was a thriving
years, and if you have
all of that is underwater. The school, the cemetery, the fucking church, the houses, and the people that they killed in those houses. They kept all that shit and put the water over it.
Formed in the late 1800s.
That a bitch. And also, I found out the white people in the surrounding towns was jealous. They was jealous because these people had like the most thriving crops. Of course they did. They were enslaved. They knew how to, grow shit. So they were jealous about all of that. They was just about all of that. Damn.
Players, but farming was the top trade.
So they really had kind of a miraculous farming growth here while the rest of the state was really struggling.
But then residents were abruptly forced off their land.
So the flashpoint, I think, is 1912.
This takes us back to the death of May Crow. The 19-year-old white woman was found dead in the woods near Oscarville, presumably after being raped.
Typically, the answer to white girls being raped was go to the Black community and just start blaming people.
By nightfall, terror began to reign over Oscarville.
So from there, the rage and hatred in the community, mobs got together and they were called night riders, and they were riding throughout Oscarville and driving out the Black community.
And the night turned deadly.
They did that to a bunch of Black people.
Fires outside, firebombs thrown in the church.
Filmmaker Bob Mackey recaptures those horrific nights in an upcoming television series.
Anytime anything happened, guess where everyone would go? To the church. Well, they attacked the church. People were hung, lynched.
Mackey's series features stories of direct descendants like George Rucker, who can trace his family back 4 generations to Oscarville. He tells the story of his great-grandfather, Bert Oliver, and the entire family being forced off their land.
See, they owe these people money. This is the bottom line that Amber Ruffin was talking about. They owe them millions and millions of dollars for taking their land. Will they get it?
Night riders came through. They had to leave everything. The main thing they left was property, and my grandfather had 100 acres.
Rucker says many relatives died as they tried to flee.
So when they got to the Chattahoochee River, from what I understand, they were told, when the mob got up on the bridge, they were told that they either had to swim or drown. Most of them didn't make it. My grandfather, one of them that did make it, he lost some brothers and sisters.
He says his relatives who survived settled in Gainesville.
From what my mother told me, Bert Oliver, he would sit and tell her this story, and he would just sit and cry.
Crosby says whites in the area took over the remaining properties. She says Oscarville farmers were specifically skilled in raising poultry, which set the pace for Gainesville eventually becoming poultry capital of the world.
You have a farm already going, and you had free land, so you just take it.
Rucker says his great-grandfather married his second wife, Beulah, and they built this school that still stands in Gainesville today. By the late 1950s, the Beaufort Dam was built and Lake Lanier was formed, covering up Oscarville and swallowing most of its history. Many believe Lake Lanier is haunted because of the high number of drownings. We spoke to officials who tell us because there is an entire town that includes structures and even forest areas with trees that are 60 feet tall, it makes it more difficult to navigate through, and someone can easily become trapped in debris, leading them to drowning. We have so much more on this story on our website.
Ain't that a bitch? Ain't that a bitch? They left the forest. They left everything and they put it under the water, y'all. That's diabolical. That's truly diabolical. Anybody got any comments on this? Let me see. Hi, Roddy 25. Black brothers and sisters need not to be so ignorant and know the history that you're telling us right now. Maybe show some race loyalty. You're right. You are 100% right. It's because of lack of knowledge. I totally agree. If people knew the history of what a lot of our people have been through, I definitely feel like there would be more unity. And that's why they don't teach us our history. And that's why I got fired. I got fired for teaching this shit, y'all. Check this out. This is from PBS. All rights reserved, PBS. This is for educational and informational purposes. Check this out.
Recent presidential election. In fact, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been keeping a running tab on a spike in hate incidents across the country. Special correspondent Duarte Geraldino reports tonight from an area outside Atlanta where lingering racial scars are still being examined for lessons on how to move forward. And a warning, the story contains some graphic and offensive language.
In 1987, race and class divisions erupted as African-American leaders and their supporters tried to march through Forsyth County, Georgia, an area just 40 miles north of Atlanta.
Where did the people who come from who were shouting, "Nigger, go home"?
A moment of extreme division captured in one of Oprah Winfrey's first shows. She came to Forsyth after it was thrust into the global spotlight because an unspoken ban on Black people was all at once being exposed, challenged, and proudly defended.
My name's Frank Shirley. I'm the head of the committee to keep Forsyth and Dawson County white. There were thousands of white people that came out to join our white people's protest.
First time anyone, including myself, had seen Black faces in Forsyth County.
Yet there were also whites in the area like Patrick Phillips, who joined African Americans to oppose the ban. He was just 17 at the time.
All around me, all of these people started, chanting white power. And at that point, I realized that I had stumbled my way into the middle of the Klan's victory celebration for having stopped the march.
At that point, what goes through your mind?
I was horrified and kind of shocked.
Phillips says the march came at a time when the community was feeling pressure from what it considered outsiders, a time when speaking up against the racial ban could make you a target.
I still feel a little bit nervous talking.
Okay, let me go back. So what happened was Oprah went down to this same Oscarville, same Forsyth County, right outside of Atlanta, because she was trying to figure out why these white folks is tripping. Why y'all got to send down town like that? You know what I'm saying? Peace, brother Courtney. Peace, good brother. New love and peace always. Oh, peace, good brother. Yeah, it's just a Black History moment. I'm gonna probably do one every morning because I see that's when a lot of my people are at work or up and looking for something to watch. But yeah, this is the reason I got fired, y'all. I didn't even show all of this, y'all. I just did the spooky Lake Lanier aspect of it, kind of, and talking about how it's a Black folk tale, but it's also true Black history, true American history.
Talking about all of this openly now.
But lately, he's been doing a lot of talking about his childhood in North Georgia and how his experience can help all Americans make sense of today.
What's happened in the last couple of months, the ugliness of the campaign, the racial rhetoric, and the divisiveness. And I think there are people who want to interpret that as a kind of wrong turning in America. I think the other way to interpret it is really more of a revelation of some currents that have been there all along.
Phillips is the author of Blood at the Root, A Racial Cleansing in America. The book is his way of making sense of the place where he grew up.
The story that I was told, the myth was very simple. White people rose up, they drove out their Black neighbors, they were kept out for 100 years. What I now know is the racial cleansing in 1912.
We followed his trail of discovery.
See how they call it everything but murder, a racial cleansing. They literally, this is no, I think it's hard for, people in general just to process the hatred, that comes through. They didn't just cleanse, it was in the cleansing. It was a murder. They killed every fucking body. Okay. Whoever didn't run off fast enough. There was only a few, like the descendant of the one brother y'all just saw, but most of them people were murdered on the spot if they didn't get their ass out of town. Now, when I lived in Shreveport, Georgia, Shreveport, Louisiana, I lived in Shreveport for 6 years. Lots of the people in that community told me that white folks did the same thing in their neighborhood. They just like, if you did something they didn't think they liked, they thought you was being an uppity nigga. They literally were like if you were friends with some of the white people in the town, they would give you a heads up and they'd be like, listen, keep your people in the house tonight because white folks about to run through. And anybody they catch on the street, they scooping up and they killing. They used to do that all the time. One time, one of the people in the community, several people in the community told me a story of when they killed about 300 black people one night. They was mad about something, whatever progress black people was doing. These white folks got mad and killed like 300 black people. So when white people want to talk about the black people don't do this and black people don't do that, they got to remember that they sabotaged all of our movements, all of them. Every single movement that black people attempted to do, they ruined. So now we got ghettos, and now black people ran out the South and they moved up to Chicago and Detroit and St. Louis, trying to find some sanctity in Gary, Indiana. That's why we ended up in all these cities up north. It was called the Great Migration. Okay. My grandmother and my grandfather were part of that Great Migration. My uncles, great uncles, and everybody, they left their towns in Alabama and Mississippi because they got sick of all the murder. Let's keep it real. It wasn't cleansing. No cleansing. It was murder. So yeah, man, this is that history that they don't want me to teach and that they fired me for teaching. I didn't even play all this stuff. I just told them about the lakes and about Central Park, but they didn't write that one down. Yeah. Did y'all know Central Park was built over a black town called Seneca Village? Well, it was black, Native American, so-called, and cool white folks. And they built the Central Park over that. But anyway.
It begins here at a cemetery beside Pleasant Grove Baptist Church, just outside of Cumming, Georgia. What is this?
So this is the grave of Mae Crow. She comes into the story of Forsyth County's racial cleansing because on September 8th, 1912, she disappeared in the woods about a mile from her house. And all hell broke loose in Forsyth County on the day of Mae Crow's funeral.
According to various accounts, 18-year-old Mae Crow is walking alone in the woods when she's struck repeatedly with a rock, reportedly sexually assaulted, and left for dead.
She was hit so hard that her eye was dislodged from her skull and left hanging. She's always kind of sent her.
Debbie Vermont is Mae Crow's grandniece. She keeps a portrait of her in her living room.
My grandmother always said that she was known to be the prettiest girl in Forsyth County.
Word of the attack spread quickly. Suspicion soon fell on a group of young African Americans. Local media condemned them, describing the trio as, quote, the fiendish, low-browed, gorilla-type Negroes. Enraged by the news, a mob immediately lynched one man.
You believe that some of your distant relatives took part in this lynching?
Yes, some of them I am fairly sure they did. These were the most aggrieved and grieving, who wanted justice for what had happened to their loved one.
2 others, both teenagers, were arrested, tried, and convicted. A prominent doctor volunteered land near his home for the court-ordered execution. An estimated 5,000 people showed up to watch the hanging.
Hold up, let me pause on that. So first of all, she was considered the prettiest girl in town, and she was not wanting none of them dusty ass white boys. She was actually dating one of the black kids, which they shouldn't have been, see? And when she got caught, instead of telling her daddy the truth, which was that she was messing around with the dude, they made it into rape. And then they beat her ass and killed her and then blamed it on the black people. You know what I'm saying? And then when the pastor, see, there's videos on this. If you go on YouTube, there are different videos on this. You can check it out. And it goes into more detail about the whole story about Lake Lanier. But basically they use that as an excuse to get rid of the people in the town. You know what I'm saying? The pastor from the black part of town came even over to the white people part of town and was like, "Hey, y'all know that shit ain't right. Y'all know that's not right. That's y'all not doing it right." Then they beat his ass. I think they killed him too.
Well, my grandmother would have been 18 months old sitting in her mother's lap.
Watching someone being lynched.
Right.
So do you believe that those three people, the two teenagers, the one young man in his 20s, do you believe they were innocent?
I do believe they were innocent. I do believe.
And it wasn't just some random teenagers. They were a family. They killed his mama, his uncle, his cousins. They killed the boy's whole family, yo, for dating that girl. That wasn't just some random white people. And people know he didn't do it. They know it was some local white people in the town that raped that girl and beat her up and all that. But, you know, it was just easier to blame them. And they got that white guilt. And they're going to be cursed till they figure this shit out and apologize to all these people, all of our people. Like, it's just, man.
And I believe it's a huge cold case that's still sitting there to try to figure out exactly who did it.
Stories like this were common in the Jim Crow South.
Click the like
but
button,
what
y'all,
was
please.
unique in this case is what happened next. Newspapers of the day describe a series of late-night attacks on black families, a campaign of terror by whites.
The Night Riders won. It worked. They succeeded in their goal of driving out the entire black community.
More than 1,000 African Americans banished.
They largely erased all the signs that that community had ever been there.
At one point, this land belonged to the black community of Forsyth County.
But not everything was erased. Phillips has spent 10 years looking for physical evidence of Forsyth's black community, remains of burnt-out churches, and lands from which African Americans were driven off.
Why is it so difficult to find all this stuff?
Well, I have a land lot number, and that's it.
Today, much of this land is high-priced real estate, but when Phillips first came, it was a different place.
In 1977, when my family moved to Forsyth, the place was changing quite a bit. The completion of Highway 400 in the mid-1970s suddenly made Forsyth viable as a bedroom community for people, for professional people working in Atlanta.
Those newcomers weren't always welcome, though. At the time, fewer than 40,000 people lived here, and some were willing to use extreme measures to protect their way of life. Today, more than 200,000 people live in Forsyth, and thanks to a surge in new businesses and high-paying jobs, it's one of the wealthiest counties in the nation.
Ain't that a bit?
To successfully erase this kind of land theft, to ignore its impact over generations, is really damaging. Come on up, Duarte.
Phillips' search did turn up one major marker. Remember the home of the wealthy landowner who volunteered his backyard for the public hangings in 1912? It's been meticulously restored and now houses the local Chamber of Commerce. James McCoy is the Chamber's CEO.
You know, the events in, particularly in 1987, it was a soul-searching moment for this community. Much of that was driven by the business community.
Since 1987, the Chamber's membership has evolved, moving from mostly mom-and-pop businesses to larger corporations explicitly bound by the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
We went from probably a little over 90% being micro enterprises, one or two employees, to companies that are more in the mid-range of business of anywhere between 25 and 200 employees.
You can measure just how far Forsyth has come by the candidacy of Democrat Daniel Blackman. He ran to represent the county in the Georgia State Senate.
Well, I didn't win, but we got 21% of the vote. I'm almost positive to say that, you know, some white folks voted for me. So the fact that I'm in this county and we were able to run and I'm a black candidate, I think that really speaks volumes, and it shows that we are going in the right direction.
Oh my goodness. Did you just see what I just saw? Hold up. Let me remind this pork chop face. Hold up. This dude, Daniel Blackman. You know white folks be having jokes, right? You know they be having jokes. That is cool, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's still a sundown town. I'm not still trying to get caught there after 8 p.m. or no shit. And you know what? For the record, they have sundown towns out here on the west too. When I was driving to Phoenix to go visit my husband, he told me, I had told him, my children and I, we had to use the bathroom, and we stopped at this Arby's. Now I should have listened to my son. My son said, Mama, black people don't eat Arby's. Please don't stop here. You already should know. I was like, oh, Pshaw, it's Arby's. I want some curly fries. That's me, right? I want some curly fries. So we pull into the gas station connected to it, and this bearded older white man was smiling, all cheesy, extra cheese, and following me around the whole store. And me, I didn't think nothing about the racism. I just was like, oh, they must just don't see black people too often. Hey, I was all super acting like I was Beyonce, famous superstar and shit. Like, oh, hey, how you doing? What's up? What you doing? And it will do. And small talk, small talk. And then I'll walk over to the Arby's to order my curly fries, and everybody stopped like it was in the movies. You know how in the movies everybody fucking stops doing what they do when they look up at you. And I again was on some Beyonce shit, like, hey, you know, hey, I just want some curly fries. And it did take a long ass time. Like, I didn't really realize they never made my motherfucking order. I was up in there for like 15 minutes. I went to the car, came back, went to the car, came back. Even my kids was like, nah, we good. And then they went in the car. I'm still like, so I finally was like, you know what? Can I just get a refund? And that, and then when I told my husband later, like where I was, he was like, that was a sundown town. You should not have stopped. He said, I'd rather you peed on the side of the road than gotta go do that. And I was like, say what? And that's when I really learned that they got that shit out here too. They got sundown towns out here on the West Coast too. So there we go. The general Lee community word. This is why women should always listen to men, to wise men. Let's add that part. I absolutely listen to my man. Oh, yeah, my man. Thank you for my man. I listen to my old man most of the time. I'm a thinker, so I don't need somebody to think for me, but I love blade sharpening blade style. You know what I mean? Like, I like dialogue, I like conversation, I like intellectual talk. You know what I mean? And if it makes fucking sense, I'm doing it. But not just cause you're the man, or I don't get down like that. I get down with wisdom, and what's the most prudent thing to do. And so my thing is having a man that knows more than me, or can really guide me, because I picked people who I thought were like that level, and they were on some levels, but then on other levels I think I had developed more in certain areas. You know what I mean? No shade. I love everybody, so no shade. Let me get off that. But I'm just saying, y'all want to be led and shit, you got to be worthy of it. A lot of brothers is being mad immoral right now. They're being mad immoral. Like, they're acting out all the bullshit they used to be accused of but wasn't doing. Now they're like imitating art or some shit. You know what I'm saying? So some people need to move off of that and get to being righteous again, because we are righteous people. We're good people. That's why people like black people, black people, so called. We weren't even called black. We need to move away from that fucking word anyway. But sorry, that's my opinion. All rights reserved. All opinions expressed on the show don't necessarily reflect the views of the hostess. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you got to be worthy of the shit. And if you know you're not, stop playing. Stop playing. And wise men listen to their wives. And you marry a wise woman. You don't just marry a girl just because of her beauty. I know in Islam they allow you to marry for beauty. I know that. But in these times, you can't just marry for beauty. You need a partner too. You need somebody that can help build your business. And likewise, partner. And then if you got kids in the mix, you already know. You know? And so that's okay. We're all learning, right? Transitioning into growth. We're all learning, and that's just my point of view on that. So what do I know? No, we be knowing. We just don't be trusting our shit, trusting ourselves. But we gotta do that. You gotta trust yourself. But anyway, back to Daniel Blackman. Let's see what is he gonna do anything about this lake? Let's check this out. Let's see what he talking about.
Volumes, and it shows that we are going in the right direction.
Still, less than 5% of all Forsyth residents are black. Yet, unlike many African Americans before him, Blackman is vowing to stay. He owns a strategic communications business and is raising his family here.
I'm not going anywhere for a long time.
But for Phillips and Vermont, the weight of their Forsyth roots are too heavy. Both moved up north decades ago.
We were raised with this notion that every day America gets a little bit more just. Every day the wheels of progress kind of move forward. And I think, in the research, I learned that what that leaves out is that sometimes the gains of one generation are given back in the next.
Because down there, nobody wanted to talk about it.
Vermont now lives in the Philadelphia area and gives talks to mostly white groups on the lessons of her family's past and what it means for today. I asked her if she feels the country has moved past the kinds of racial conflict that Forsyth experienced.
No. There are still so many places that are white enclaves. We are still a very segregated country.
Confirming the reasons Vermont was so fearful, the Southern Poverty Law Center has documented more than 1,000 incidents of racial intimidation since the presidential election. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Duarte Geraldino in Forsyth County, Georgia.
See, you know what? I used to have Southophobia. I ain't gonna even lie. As a kid, man, I was afraid of the South. I did not want to go to the South. My mama told me that her and her siblings, they used to get quote sent to the South every summer, right, to go spend time with their relatives and stuff like that. And I never had that real experience. I mean, my mother, we traveled though. Like she took me down to Jackson, Mississippi. We were trying to see if we was gonna live there when I was a kid, and I was like, just remembering Emmett Till and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they shoved that Emmett Till story down our throats every year. You know what I'm saying? So I had a big anxiety about going to Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? To this day, okay, I'm not gonna front on that. I lived in Norcross, Georgia, for like a year. That's when me and telling my business again. Me and my baby daddy broke up because, I just had a new baby, which is our daughter, and he cheated on me. Shit, with some bitch at the job. The fuck? You know what I'm saying? I couldn't even walk for 6 months after I had this baby, and he gonna go cheat on me. Talk about because I was not in that way of, you know, feeling like doing all that. Because I was breastfeeding and it hurt and I couldn't walk. It was a lot of issues I was dealing with. It wasn't just because I was on some power trip, it was a health situation, and I felt there should have been more understanding with that. You know, I tore 56 ligaments. Yeah, that shit was crazy. They had to force my cervix open. That shit hurt. And I had pain for like 6 months to a year. I needed to heal. People don't talk about shit. That's why we don't never learn nothing. You know what I mean? Nobody told me about hemorrhoids. Nobody told me, okay, hemorrhoids. You get that shit. Or you get heartburn. I heard you get one or the other. Ladies, you'd have to tell me. Yeah, wow, I know. Yeah. I told you I want to do stand up. Y'all think I'll do pretty good? Everybody, let me know. Give me a 9 in the chat. He needs water. You know how the heater dries you? I don't know if you hear my son coughing in the background. Hold on, I gotta tell him. Yeah. So anyway, it's time to get them ready. What do you think? The South is not that bad. Tons of interracial. I know. Somebody told me half of Mississippi is mixed. And that's the thing. That's not even new. I remember growing up, and my mother used to tell me, and my grandmother used to tell me that people, okay, like there were way more mixed people back in the day, even way more. It's just some went to white, and then they're by third generation, they're looking white mostly, or passion for white. And they just go on being white. And these people that think they're white, they're not even really white. They go back a couple, three, they'd be seeing their grandmother was black or so called Negro or whatever, or called Indian or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I learned that they created the whole state of West Virginia. The governor of Virginia was so annoyed because everybody was with everybody. Whites was with Indians. Indians was blacks. Blacks was with whites. Everybody was with everybody. No problem, right? And he was like, wait a minute. There are too many mixed people as this. And he kicked their asses out of Virginia. That's what happened. And then they created West Virginia. And West Virginia is south because at the time they didn't go literally west yet, They just they thought that was that was west. At that time. Everything else was owned by France or Spain or whatever. You couldn't get your ass up in there, you get smoked. Let's see. Just because there were interracial couples doesn't mean that racism didn't still exist in the South, because it absolutely does. Everything is the opposite in the South. That's what am I wrong? Like, people be married, but they cheat. They declare one thing and they do another a lot. That's what I noticed. And that was like the norm, to throw one type of way out there and then not really be about it. Not Louisiana. Louisiana's different. Louisiana's still very Afro-French. I love the culture of the whole state. I'm not even on front. Louisiana's a whole different animal. I didn't spend enough time in Alabama to really know. But my mother loves Alabama folk. That's where our people are from. She always says, they're so intelligent and tall. My other folks is from Mississippi, so they're always industrial. They're very business oriented. They're very about that learning. Education is important in the South. To some people, I worked with kids that didn't give a damn about no education. Most of their fathers was locked up. They was concerned about other stuff. You know what I mean? Louisiana is the witchcraft state. I will tell you, before Katrina, when I went down to New Orleans I know it's New Orleans, leave me alone. I just said New Orleans because I want to. I went down to New Orleans with Razkaz, Coolio, King T. Who else was on that plane with us? Ooh, Billy Boy. I mean, not Billy Boy. Yeah, Billy Boy. What up? Shout out Billy Boy. And Paul Stewart. I was the only girl. That was so cool. Nothing romantic, just dope, mental, creative people. It was dope. And yeah, they were very protective of me. They didn't let me do nothing. They were very careful and respectful to me always. I don't have those stories about none of that. I mean, I could tell about who they was having sex with, but they wouldn't let me do nothing. Okay. I was hanging out with Old Dirty Bastard. They allowed that only in the club. Like, they was like, no, we're not playing with you. And when ODB took me backstage, I was hanging out with Method Man, the whole Wu-Tang, y'all. RZA, You God, Ghostface, all of them. All of them. It was amazing. I was listening to Method Man. He was so wise. He always talked in parables and shit. He was he was very intelligent, very I respect uh, him a lot. Very smart. And his body is looking real good for the 50s. Y'all need to come on now. You see Busta Rhymes, all them niggas is getting their shit, their fitness is cracking. They was like, we are not getting rid of our sexy. We are not losing our women to Jamaican men. They're not. Oh, you know the Jamaican brothers be fit. They do. I'm talking about older Jamaican men, you know. Whereas brothers, they be getting that beer gut. They start not caring about how their body look. Women too. I'm not gonna just say brothers and sisters. Some of us look. Listen. Mine is hormonal. Okay, I'm going through menopause. Okay, that's different. And men go through something too. They need to put a name to it already. But anyways, I'm going to work out. Doggone it. Steroids. Steroids. When a man respects you, he protects the hell out of you. Yeah, that's I believe that. Method Man has always been fine. I don't look at him like that, but yeah, I can see what you're saying. He takes very good care of himself. Absolutely. I respect him very much, though. I never looked at him in that romantical kind of way. I didn't look at Old Dirty Bastard like that either. He was just curious, about because the way I was dressed and things. I was hanging out with Coolio. I was dressed really cool. I was dressed real earth tone and earthy, and I was rocking a fro. It was dope. I was supposed to be in this. I'm telling this story like I'm an old lady. Well, one day, baby. But yeah, I was supposed to be out when the Jill Scott and the Erica Badu and the Lauren Hills and them came out. Absolutely. But I just was not willing to do certain things, folks. I just couldn't do certain things. And maybe that's what happened. That's my story. Hi, son. The pick is in the bathroom down here. But that's it. Thank y'all for kicking it with me right now. I got to get these kids ready for school now and go work out. I'm literally, I need to lose about 35, 40 pounds. Yes, I do. So I've started working out and I'm going to try to work out every day. At least I should say maybe 5 to 7 days a week. Yes, I'm taking either a Zumba class or one of these little lightweight classes or a martial arts class. I took that the other day. That kicked my butt. Oh my God. We were doing Muay Thai, Taekwondo, Capoeira, all in one class, bro, and Kung Fu. It was super dope. And I was sweating. Whew. So I'm trying to get into all of that every day, God willing, if I can. And what you saying, Stone Cold Steve Austin? Men go through the silver fox phase as women go through menopause. Yeah, it's not pretty. Yeah, the pick is in the bathroom. But anyway, yeah. Wu Tang is in Vegas right now. They got a Vegas residency, and my girlfriend is a background singer. What? Trying to get an interview? I'm headed to Vegas, girl. Hit me up. Call me, girl. Here, look. This is my email. Here. I think my friend Phoenix Orion, shout out, DJ'd for them the other day at their show. And okay. Hit me up. Yeah, I live in Vegas, girl. Yeah. And also on IG, y'all can find me on IG if you want to leave a message on IG. I am Tomiko Show. TOMEICKOSHOW. Or the Tomiko Show. I'm on the Tomiko Show. Tomiko Show. You gotta get back to work. Oh, okay. And also, this is TGHDMMA. I'm also on IG as TGHDMMA. So that's what I'm doing. And I hope you learned something. I know it's kind of sad. Bye Stone Cold Steve Austin. Thank you for tuning in, bro. If you ever feel inclined, give me a shout out with the donation because I really am trying to actually get a 4K camera, and all proceeds will go toward that because that's what I need. I need that for my music videos. I need that for my show so I can try to upgrade. I have a company. It's called TGH, Digital Media Marketing Agency, and I'm working on marketing myself on a more tighter level. I want to get back in school and learn some more things about how to do more digital marketing and things like that, etc. I'm telling all my business, but that's to motivate and inspire others to do it. So why not? The more the merrier. We'll see who actually gets what done, right? TGHDMMA. I'm also on Twitch. Check me out on Twitch, y'all. Go on Twitch and YouTube and click like. I know I'm like telling y'all a bunch of stuff. I'm being bossy, right? But yeah, click the like button. Do that too, because it helps a lot. And also, again, Tamiko Show TV. I am unemployed, moving out of the education system, God willing, because look, this is the first story. I'm gonna go a trilogy. This is the first one, Lake Lanier. This is the story. I didn't even show all this stuff that I'm showing y'all. But this is number one. All right, so I'll see y'all later. Talk to y'all later. Tamiko Show. Share it. Tell people about the Tamiko Show or Tamiko Show. Tell people about it. And listen to my music too. All right. Well, I think I might play a song before I roll out. Yeah, I'm gonna play one of my songs. Why not? If I don't play my stuff, who will? Right? All right. So this is my song. Please, would you mind clicking on it so I can make the numbers go up if you like it? How about that? Should I show the video or the song? Like I did a little homemade video kind of thing. Y'all want to see the video or y'all want to just hear the song? Let me know in the chat. Say video or just the song. Let me know, y'all, because I want to play it. I want to play it. Tell me song or video. All right. I'll just play my music video. Why not? It's called a visualizer when you don't have a budget. You feel me? And yes, I did use my iPhone. So here we go. Damn. This is Flow, a poem by Watts 1965. Got Violet Beats, Planet LA, Active Music Works. Expectation called it suffering. Living life for mystery, separated. Confusion, illusions outside my eyes. Standing on your insides, no surprise. The mind becomes numb, mentality's dumb. Knowledge of self is the beginning of wisdom. Knowledge of self is the beginning of wisdom. Close your eyes, see a little clearer. Living off a perch never made you search. So more in life for a better kind of meaning than dreaming while living in a nightmare. I stare while counting eggs hatched to the what it becomes a deliberate mantra. Substantial consequences, thinking of possibilities like survival through false realities. Slanging the ills in palms of babies. Mentally ill public school training. Shit we already know, but being wild we just know. And so being a stranger to yourself, how can you knock off the remnants of slave help? What makes me so notorious? Do we even know what's all the fuss? Impose amnesia with earth the trust, like undeveloped Negroes in us. Danger, danger makes hearts combust. Those who know sit back nonplussed. That planetary thoughts must realign to define time's rush. Okay, so that's my little video. All right. Well, I gotta play it. Who's gonna play it if I don't play it? right? Yeah, that's my song. So I gotta get into these kids now, and I will talk hopefully to people soon. All right. Have a good morning. I'm sorry it's sad information, but it's the truth. Shit.